And most scientists actually don't even know about these findings because they are not. There's no investment going into it because the scientific community is made up of a few important people that actually decide what is relevant and what is not relevant, and make the investment to research it and to make it public. And if they decide it's not worth it, it's just not worth it. So it's not really a public affair. It's just so many of these people have been turned down because of their findings, which we are going to talk about. So many findings that contradict and are so controversial to mainstream archaeology that seem almost to be sometimes are treated as lies or fictions or hoaxes. But some serious scientists out there, if you do the research, will actually turn out to have discovered many interesting things. So let's go to some of these things. I just want to mention, for example, that an example of this is our own culture, our own Western culture, economic system, political system, mathematics and science. Everything we have comes down from origins in Greece and Greek, basically Greek knowledge. Well, we thought Greek knowledge came from Egypt before that, but turns out that scholars have linked Greek knowledge to Hellenic cultures. The Hellenic cultures, including the island of Crete, the Mycenaeans, and those along, for example, the Phoenician Cadmus. There's Greek historians that recorded him bringing the alphabet to Greece. This is not about Egypt then. And actually these cultures, Hellenic cultures, actually are linked even further down to Syria and the Syrian kingdom and Anatolia, and and are linked to the Semitic languages. So this is interesting. And even Alexander the Great, that actually conquered the Persians, for example. This is just another link to the connection of where it all comes from, actually. And turned out that the Persians conquered, for example, Babylon, and took their knowledge and their culture, much of it, from there. And Babylon and Assyria were just trunks of the Akkadian culture, which dates way long back, many years and thousands of years before Egypt was even an advanced civilization. So Akkadian culture even dates, its origins actually are linked to the Sumerian culture, which is, as far as we know, the advanced civilization. And by advanced, I mean they had all kinds of organization in society, what I mentioned as politics and all that, to even trading and textile and medicine and religion. And they had basically politics and rights, and they had almost like seems to be a Bill of Rights and a system of law and a system of economics and banking and trading. And there were so astronomical knowledge that go beyond what we had. Many of them even we are trying to match today in precision. We have computers now, and that's why we can. But a century ago, we didn't have even near as much knowledge as they had. They were aware, for example, of Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. They had depictions of the solar system with the exact. They had depictions of the year cycles, even the phase prequinoxes, in which every 2,100 and so many years, the equinoxes actually change a phase because the tilt in the Earth is actually shifted a bit. So it's not exact. They knew about these things, which were pretty impossible to calculate unless they had either knowledge from somewhere else that was given to them, or really amazing mathematical, astronomical, and really intelligence and intelligent capacity to make out of all this pre-advanced knowledge. So let's not underestimate these cultures, which go back way. The Sumerian culture is dated to have been 6,000 years ago, which half a century ago we thought it was the Egyptian. 3,000 before BC, and now it's 4 to 5,000 before BC. So we know it changes. We know we haven't holden the truth yet. We are always finding new origins. So it's important to keep an open mind, because so many of these things are almost controversial. I mean, how did they have such knowledge and such mathematical knowledge? The Sumerian way of mathematical model, for example, is still used today in many ways. The decimal system, their basic numbers were, for example, they used a system based in 60, and from 60 to 40 to 50 to 40, 30, and so on. These are just facts that make people wonder, and not only me, because I'm not a professional archaeologist. I just research whatever others more prepared in the field have researched. And these other people, many of them, have dedicated their lives to this and have come to conclusions which are just unimaginable. Some of them just say, they just don't know how they did it, and they can just theorize. But what they are sure of is that it's a big mystery how this culture boomed, how this knowledge came into being. And this can be linked by Zecharia Sitchin. It is linked to the mystery link and to the mystery boom that happened in culture from an animal man being to a civilized and knowledgeable man. Almost like his brain capacity grew out of nowhere, and his culture, knowledge, and capacity just was unmeasurable, even comparing it to Western culture of the 15th century, which was really backtracking all the knowledge humanity had before. So besides this, that's just one thing that you should research into Sumerian origins, research into all of this, and let's go to interesting archaeological finds, because these finds, I find them amazing. At first I couldn't really believe them. I thought, well, it must be a hoax, it must be some crazy people out there claiming to have found some really ancient artifacts just to get some attention and get their works published. But as you research further and further into this, you'll find that it's an enormous amount of scientists and archaeologists and historians that have found anomalous objects that contradict mainstream theories, and they have been turned down by mainstream science just because their findings just challenge so much the established and proposed model of things. And many of these were genuine, they were professionals, they were good people that were interested in actually finding out and not getting personal attention. And they were so many and so respected in their fields that many of them respected in their fields that it's kind of it's really not a possibility to me anymore that this is just a huge misunderstanding. I think the misunderstanding, most of it, is in the academic social aspect of it, which has filtered so much knowledge and controlled most of it, because it has kind of deformed from its original ethical inspiration to a more control of information, and most of it is done, much of it might be done for control, and some of it might be done of fear to have to really deconstruct the whole model that modern society has built for itself. But because what would happen if these things challenge it is that what textbooks have been teaching 5 or 6 generations is most of it in history and evolution would be challenged and would be contradicted. And so what would they teach us? And there would be so many questions and so many critics. So this system is just about keeping the control over things and fear of losing that control. So let's go into the interesting finds that some research, like the finds of the 200,000 year old discoveries in South America. There are so many like these. I did some notes just to take you into the mapping. For example, they found some interesting maps, because a Turkish admiral, for example, in 1513, he drew some maps, some continental maps. Now this was before there was any compass technology, any clock technology, which would allow to calculate longitude and latitude. What this means, what this guy actually drew some maps that were so precise that even today they wouldn't differ in more than 1 degree in latitude and longitude of precision from the actual continental masses. And he actually wrote in his diaries that he took this knowledge, these drawings, from 20 predating sources, predating his time, 20 sources. He doesn't say what time they come from, but he obviously states that they were really well drawn, and before any technology was enabling man to get such precision on map drawing. In 1532, there was a map drawn. It was found later on, but it was dating this 1532 range of the Antarctic. What was really interesting about this map was that it was about the Antarctic continent, which really wasn't being explored by then, supposedly. But yeah, it was there. It was really precise. I mean, probably not as much as the other one, but it was really clearly knowledgeable and almost unbelievably precise. And what's really interesting is that the ice cap that covers the continent actually changes the shape. But this map coincided with the original shape beneath the ice cap. So it had to have been produced out of something sometime before the cap was that thick. And that would pretty much be thousands of years ago. So this just adds up to the mystery of who were these ancient explorers that actually could map so precisely so many continents and thousands of years before time. In Ecuador, this brings me to Ecuador. This Klaus Donner is an Austrian collector. He's actually the guy that collects the archaeology and all the pieces that go into the Austrian Museum of Archaeology. But since the museum didn't kind of open its doors to so many of these contradictory and controversial archaeological pieces, he started collecting them by himself. And some of these he found in 1984 in Ecuador with some other archaeologists in a underground tunnel system in Ecuador. Okay, what was so interesting about this? Well, inside the systems, which hadn't been opened up for a long time apparently, they found stones, carved, big stones, probably 3 feet high, and they had carvings on them. And these carvings pretty much depicted the continental masses very precisely, not like the other ones, but the shapes were clearly there of the Asian continent, the African continent, the European continent, with the peninsulas and everything, the American continent, and to add to the mystery, it had some other continental masses in between. But these were pretty precise, and they dated back to 12,000 years ago. How these cultures could have known how the continent masses looked like on the other side of the world, that's why it's so controversial. It would pretty much question every theory done about contact between the West and the East before Columbus and before everything that, which has been accepted to a certain degree because it has been forced upon the Academy that actually there is clear evidence that there was Asian contact and Viking contact before Columbus.